2018 wasn't big in terms of gaming for me, so I skipped doing one of these videos for that year. I only bought like 3 new games, and 2 of those were for videos. But 2019, dare I say it, you know what it is. It's looking like it might be the year of the gamers. So without further ado, here's my to-do list. Doom Eternal. Righting a wrong from the 2016 list here, I wasn't really banking on id making such a fun first-person shooter in Doom again, but they did a good job. I'm not gonna claim it's a game I think about much anymore, like I played it, I had my fun, everyone kinda gave it its dues, but I enjoyed the attitude it brought to the table a lot, just like everybody else did. It made good on a fun Doom game by playing up the ridiculousness of the series rather than trying to ground it, and further canonized the outlandish, irreverent demeanor that the Doom Guy character originally had while accommodating his return with fast and fun, varied shooting gameplay. Whoa! It made for a great time, so I can't exactly say no to more of that. Now hopefully Doom Eternal is a little less shackled to the soft reboot expectations that came with Doom 2016's environments, weapons, and enemies, so we can get an even more balls-out creative adventure. Cyberpunk. So Cyberpunk 2077 is currently looking like one of those games that's too good to be true. Some big-ass RPG with choices, slick gameplay, and refined and detailed environments. You usually have to pick one of those features when you're making this kind of thing. Though from what I've heard, Fallout is currently having a good crack at implementing none of them. Cyberpunk style is absolutely my kind of jam though, so if it can relatively deliver on each of these things, I'll probably have a good time. Probably won't be out in 2019, but I need to pad the amount of Western games I'm looking forward to on this list as to not look too biased. Which is a facade that's going to be kind of hard to pull off now that the Western games want to be Japanese too. Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Sucker Punch are good-ass developers. I love how they've usually put the gaminess of their games above fixating on realism and spectacle, while still infusing their cast with so much character and charm, and satisfying development on top of that. I never finished that third Infamous, so that's a bit of a blind spot for me, but otherwise, I've enjoyed every game I've played from them. When I heard they were making a samurai game, I was hoping it would be some kind of super gamey-ass samurai game in that classic style. But instead, it looks like it's going for a much more grounded, typical modern Sony approach to design. With an emphasis on presentation and animation and walking through impressive vistas so far in what we've seen, with sort of slow, basic looking combat here and there. It's the slow-mo the game kills them for you move. They're on this list though due to their pedigree. They've delivered consistently in the past, so I'm hoping they'll make a satisfying, historical Japanese adventure thing regardless. If they make something super compelling out of a grounded approach, I'll still be down. When it comes to super gamey looking ass samurai stuff though, it looks like From Software has us covered with SEKIRO. Personally, I kind of had my fill of the Souls formula after Demon's Souls and Dark Souls 1. You know, slow-paced, Zelda-esque kind of combat in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. I really like those first couple games, but it's not a formula I'm that attached to, even though obviously that stuff still has a big audience, with so many games aping the formula. But I'm a little more up for the kind of Action Jackson gameplay I'm seeing in Sekiro. Faster, more verticality, hopping around, environments that look a little more freeform in how they can be navigated. Even fleshing out other gameplay options like stealth. Oh, okay. Yeah, crouching in the wilderness, the hot gameplay mechanic of our time. Though if anybody should be allowed to put stealth in their 3D action game, I guess the people Tenchu came from should be allowed to do it. Hopefully, at the bare minimum, we get a really cool new combat system to play with that's better than Souls, with more complexities and tactics, perhaps with a focus on unlocking more moves and techniques to add to your repertoire, rather than an emphasis on mostly stat boosting and stuff. From's usual focus on player freedom within the worlds they offer gives me hope that they can deliver on something like that. Though Sekiro will be competing for my attention that month with another game. Dear Mr. Itsuno-san. Wait, I sort of realized that saying Mr. and San is kind of redundant there. Kind of like when people say naan bread when naan is just the original Persian for bread. Off topic, sorry. So yeah, really looking forward to your new game. In fact, I'm kind of surprised you're getting to direct and make this game at all, and without any kind of big catches so far. It's weird to finally be getting something I want for a change, you know? Did you know they're making Rage 2? Yeah, I know, did anybody ask? Sorry, drifting off again. That said, of course, as the prospective best game of all time, I'm really hoping it doesn't disappoint. Currently, I'm weighing up whether to talk about the game when it comes out at all, to be honest. People seem to get very snippy with me at the moment when I bring up the series your new game is following up on. I could have used any 3D game to explain hitboxes, really. Could have used Ocarina of Time, for crying out loud. Guess I'll use Resident Evil 6 next time as my example for that kind of thing, you know. Something a little less contentious to bring up. Maybe people are just insecure about the games they really like not matching up to the ones you made in this specific series, which they really shouldn't be, since it's pretty public record that you didn't finish that last one. Please don't do that again. I will allow you one boss rush at the end of the game, since I feel like it's your way of letting off steam after a long development cycle. Like how these sloppy shitpost vids are my kind of way of letting off steam after a long analytical video. And I'm sure it will also annoy the kind of people currently moaning they have to unlock characters in a fighting game. Maybe I'll just play your new game and not tell anyone what I think. I think that would be a pretty edgy, subversive way to finish this channel's coverage of the series your new game is a part of. We'll have to see how well my next few videos do, I guess. But anyway, good luck. I wish you the best. P.S. This framing device is pretty tenuous in retrospect. Kingdom Hearts 3 still sounds to me like a fake game people make mock covers for on DeviantArt, and yet it's out for real in a few weeks. I was a big fan of those first 3 Kingdom Hearts games. Naive child that I was when Kingdom Hearts 2 wrapped up, I was like, yeah, what a great completed story. I am thoroughly satisfied and require no more information. Meanwhile, the rest of the world immediately wanted a third one like the next day. Some games feel like set up for something else, others feel like exhausting yet satisfying conclusions. But I get it, you just played a great game, you want to replicate that happy feeling, and what more obvious way than with a sequel? But 13 years later, the idea that a game that can hit people as hard as KH2 is gonna spring out of another long-ass development hell giga game a modern Square Enix is cooking up, well, I don't think... which is probably rich coming from me after that last segment, but you know, I don't question Bubba-based Itsuno. And yet Kingdom Hearts 3 is still here on the list, because even the slimmest possibility that I'm gonna get a game with combat and bosses as satisfying as that second game, well, that's always gonna bait me back in. I doubt the story for me is ever going to hit beats as high as the older games, though. The Kingdom Hearts expanded universe is not my thing. I played Birth by Sleep and I wasn't big on the new characters. Retcons have always been a part of Kingdom Hearts, but this game was basically almost changing the entire plot of the series at this point. So yeah, old man me is going to have a hard time digesting all these new guys appearing in... a real Kingdom Hearts game. In name, it's the sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, but in reality, it's also the sequel to a whole lot more that I'm not really invested in. I quite unironically like those old games. I'm not going to enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3 if it's just really bad and sit back and go haha and make fun of it. I will play the game, and I hope it's good, but that's kind of where the extent of my hype for this ends. I don't get people who are obsessing around the clock about it. Just let it come out, you know, let it happen. You don't have to think about it until the day it's in your hands. You think you're gonna get the same surprise and wonder-like experience from a Kingdom Hearts game again, like with those first few, by watching 50 trailers before release telling you everything that's in the game? Wouldn't you like to click on a level in a video game and not know what it is because you haven't watched a bunch of YouTubers picking over every press release over the course of half a decade it's been since the announcement? Or by not seeing people on Twitter make jokes about every frame of every trailer? Stay off those pages, bookmark my channel, and just set that as your homepage, and it's the only place you need to visit online. Then you're sorted. You know, is that so hard? Jeez. I think I might get some unwarranted flack now and again when it comes to my stance on remakes. I don't hate them all. I just don't like the bad ones, and most of them, I feel, are coming out fairly mediocre and rushed these days, and not as good as the originals. Flaccid and lacking care. And of course, I'm always going to be more critical of a remake than a totally original brand new game, because I've literally got an already existing masterwork to compare every facet of it to, right? Even if the tiniest thing is messed up, that's kind of a disservice to the piece of our culture they're trying to resell to us or even sometimes supplant in the public eye. And it seems perfectly reasonable to make those comparisons, because why settle for less? Trust me, it's a lot worse than a few snafus here and there sometimes when whole levels are missing and combat systems get poorly reinterpreted. It's important to let people know what they might be missing out on from the original, because the publishers of today just care about selling that new superficial glossy version and making their money. I personally don't need a slightly different version of a game I already like, slightly different in terms of gameplay or visually or whatever. So something like that is gonna have to be pretty exceptional to get my money. Every other medium's fanbase seems to have my same critical approach to appraising remakes of classics. I have the same respect for gaming visuals and techniques used in the past as, say, film buffs do for practical effects or animation fans have for classic 2D animation stuff. Sometimes, though, even remakes in other mediums get the green light from buffs of that medium, and a game that probably warrants that in our neck of the woods is Resident Evil. A stellar remix that didn't sell too well upon release in 2002, but did so well digitally a few years ago that Capcom greenlit a remake of the second game. And after the market spoke and said, yes, we like fixed camera-angled classic survival horror, Capcom finally nutted up and made another third-person shooter. I feel like if there was ever going to be a moment to bring back the old style, it would be for a Resi 2 remake, but alas, that isn't happening. Here's the thing though, something at bare minimum a remake needs to do is look like something I might want to play even if I didn't know it was based on a game I like. You see a trailer for something like the gaudy Crash Team Racing remake, and come on, it's not exactly something you'd be calling the lads up to get over and play immediately if it was unconnected to a childhood favorite. Resi 2 remake though, looks like a cool horror game. I'd probably play it if I'd never heard of Resident Evil. Resi 2 is enough of a giant blockbuster classic that it's unlikely it's going to be supplanted 20 years later in anyone's mind by anything claiming to be an update. Plus, I'm giving this one a pass since people have been wanting this remake long before remakes became as obnoxiously prevalent as they are now. It seems like they're putting a lot of effort into it, and it's different enough conceptually to hopefully stand parallel to the original as a cool remix and new take, rather than as a replacement. And all of those positives are much more than I can say for most remakes these days. And it goes without saying that I'll always recommend playing both versions of any game, no matter how good or bad a remake is. So get on that now before this remake comes out. I'll be testing you later. Remakes are such a complex subject, there's no sweeping statements that you can make about all of them. You have to take them on a case-by-case basis, I think. Not just in terms of the quality of the final product, and the changes made or not made, and if they're good or if they're bad. It's also important to take into account the context of the release, who's releasing it, who's developing it, why is it being made, when is it being made, what's the status of the original and how is that being preserved, etc, etc. One day I might do a big full video on the subject of remakes and all their permutations, but to rein in on the side of positivity for this specific case, let me point out a couple of things I really liked about the Resi 2 remake demo. It seems like a cool horror puzzle box I'm gonna want to probably solve with some great touches. I like how all the cutscenes are skippable, even the small transitory ones that in a lot of games aren't. I love the classic confined exploratory gameplay, I love the item management at play. The still shots of points of interest in the environment have a really cool retro feel to them and seem to be emulating pre-rendered backdrops from puzzles in classic horror. As good as this stuff is though, yeah, while playing, I still had that voice in the back of my mind going, yeah, this stuff is kinda cool, but they could have just made this a totally original game with a new story and setting, and things would have been made even cooler. We'll see how things go. Hopefully at least it won't require any kind of dunking when it arrives. Side note, if they remake Resi 3, make it first person like 7. That will make the decision to make the 2 remake third-person shooting style seem less like a cautious, cynical move to court a larger audience, and more like a cool, experimental decision to try every mainline Resi gameplay style out on the 3 original games. Just a thought, if we're going to start using different perspectives in these remakes, we might as well try them all. I'm looking forward to 2019 and beyond, because there is a lot of gamey-ass looking games coming. Jeez, I need to stop saying that so much. I need a better term for that. In some cases, they had to dredge up some pretty old series to get us there, but that has me hopeful I'll have some fun this year with at least one of the returning franchises that I like so much, that all seem to be cropping up again at once. Anyway, I'll see you all next week for the appraisal of yet another dormant for a decade IP trying to make a comeback.
This guy's bonkers. Well...
Oh, those crazy androids. Man, I need to finish that game sometime. Just a little bit of quick news. I'm moving most of my fun social media posts to Instagram. So if you haven't checked that out yet, feel free to give it a look. Since I'm still talking, I'll just thank the backers again, and the top backers you're seeing right now. Support if you want more updates and extra little bits of content over on my Patreon. Link down below. Thanks very much for watching, and peace out.